Not only are they competing against each other, but they're also competing against any number of the multiple screens available out there. Moreover, they're operating in a world where magazine articles are available for free in the hope that the quality of writing and the choice of stories will persuade readers to subscribe. So, joining us now to help us understand why magazines still matter and how they are changing in the digital maelstrom, we welcome Sarah Fulford, Editor-in-Chief of Toronto Life, Best Canadian Magazine in 2007. Hayley Cullingham, Editor-in-Chief of Maisonneuve, Best Canadian Magazine of 2011. The Senior VP and GM of Rogers Publishing, Steve Maish, who was the founding editor and publisher of Sportsnet Magazine, Best Canadian Tablet Magazine of 2013. And the new kid on the block. Here's Jonathan Kay, Editor-in-Chief of The Walrus Magazine, Best Canadian Magazine in 2006. Welcome, everybody. Nice to have you on TVO tonight.
Thanks very much.
Jonathan Kay, now that you've been on the job for a whopping 3 days, I obviously want to start with you because you have a deep foundation of magazine knowledge to draw upon for this program, right?
Well, I'm going to be referring to Monday as my early career, Tuesday as my mid-career, and Wednesday as my latter career, and that includes this morning, actually.
So Thursday, you are a veteran now.
That's right, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, you had a good gig at the National Post, rather. Why did you leave that for what you're doing now?
I was there at 16 years at the National Post, always on the opinion and op-ed pages. Daily journalism was a huge thrill. I was ready to take more of a plunge into long-form journalism. As you know, the Walrus specializes in big, meaty pieces. I felt like I'd probably written 800 editorials about politics, the Middle East, everything under the sun. I could sort of write those in my sleep. It was time to move on a little bit and take on a new challenge.
Are there, in your view, enough Canadians who want to read long, thoughtful pieces in any magazine, let alone yours?
Yes, in fact, there's more readers out there now than there ever were before, except now they're getting it in a variety of ways. They're getting it phones, tablets, web, and traditional print. So in fact, I mean, that's the irony when people talk about how the challenges that these publications face is that there are more readers than ever before. And it's actually amazing how many 20-something people I meet who are interested in reading 3, 4, 5, 6,000 word pieces. The challenge is delivering them in a format that they want, because for a lot of people it's got to be digital. For some people it's still print, but you have to address every platform in order to get that audience.
How many people, here's the Walrus right here, how many people actually pick this magazine up in their hands, not on a screen, but pick it up and read it?
Well, I'm proud to say circulation has been quite stable in an age of declining circulation for a lot of other magazines. The circulation is quite healthy. It's not going to give exact figures, but it's well into the tens of thousands in terms of home delivery and such. And of course, there's newsstand sales on top of that. We're looking forward to keeping that market active, but expanding aggressively into the digital market, especially for young people.
And a couple quick, last quick questions. In your view, what are the great magazines out there?
Well, putting Canadian magazines aside, you know, the example everybody is giving these days is Atlantic magazine, and especially in regard to the way Atlantic has reinvented itself, including its print edition, through digital means.
What makes it great?
What makes it great is it's intelligent while at the same time funny and gripping and interesting. You know, it's difficult when you're competing for people's attention to get them to read to the end of a 3 or 4 or 5,000 word story. And in order to get them to do that, often you have to use humor, you have to use good art, you have to use innovative digital techniques. I always tell people the real battle when you're selling a magazine or any kind of long form journalism, you're not battling for people's money, you're battling for their time. Because to read a long piece of journalism, the opportunity cost there, it might mean missing a TV show. Or it might mean staying off social media for a day if you're going to read a magazine. So you have to make it worth their while in terms of both information and also entertainment.
We're going to figure out how you're all doing at that as we continue our conversation. Hayley, tell us about, I mean, we're here in the province of Ontario and many people may not know Maisonneuve, so tell us about it. What is it?
Maisonneuve is a not-for-profit magazine. We were founded in 2002, and it's a magazine of arts, culture, and opinion. So we strive to run stories that might not find a home elsewhere in Canada, but that we think need to be told.
How often does it come out?
4 times a year.
And I think the last issue's got an article on Pauline Marois, former head of the PQ, former premier, of course, bird watching, gender studies, photo essay on Kurdistan.
Yep.
That's pretty eclectic. So what kind of readers are you aiming at?
We're aiming at everybody. The nice thing about Maisonneuve is that we've found an audience. We just did a reader survey, and they're all over the map, age-wise, income-wise, politics-wise, which is really exciting for us.
And how old are they?
Mostly in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, but like I said, really all over the map, which is nice.
Circulation?
We're a small Circ magazine, so it's limited, but it's growing every year, which is nice. And that's something that we're focusing on a lot. And I was just in an independent bookstore in Toronto, and apparently more people than ever are asking for the magazine, which was a nice thing to hear. So
okay, small circulation means what?
I don't know what the definition is, but we're below the 10,000s, but growing.
Is it difficult to sell good writing, long pieces, to potential readers?
Yes, people expect to get writing for free these days, which is frustrating, but people want to read it, and that's what we focus on, and so we try to get it to them in the best way we can. And one thing we focus on is having a really beautiful magazine, so people want to purchase it as an object, which works well for us, which is nice.
Are there any advantages to having small circulation as opposed to huge circulation?
I think we have a lot of freedom, which is nice, and beyond that, it gives us something to work towards, which it's always good to be striving, I think. I think it makes the magazine better.
He mentioned Atlantic. What's on your list?
For me, The Believer is the best magazine out there right now. Again, discounted Canadian magazines. Yeah, I love it. I think they're doing an incredible job. I want to read everything in every issue.
Okay, for those of our viewers, including this one, who doesn't know that magazine, what is that?
It's published by McSweeney's, and it's based out of San Francisco. They just became a nonprofit, and they just do incredible long form, incredible interviews, book writing, and it's always unexpected. One of my favorite pieces they did this year was about Tonya Harding, and just this retro about the whole scandal, and it was really just wonderfully written.
Think back, figure skating, Olympic Games, past years. Okay, got it, good. Okay, thanks. Sarah Fulford. Here we go. The Power List. I really devoured this, actually. That was pretty good. There's the Power List. There's the new Mayor of Toronto on the front of Toronto Life. What's Toronto Life's mission, in your view?
Well, we seek to be both irresistible and indispensable. We provide a service where, as a city magazine, we help people in the city navigate the city and make smart consumer choices, whether that's culture or food and drink, which is a big category for us. The other thing we do is we provide long-form magazine features on what matters in the city, and our mission is to make you not be able to put us down. Increasingly, because of the digital age, we find we get readers in many different platforms. So we have readers who come to us through Facebook, a lot of readers who find us that way. And we're always trying to engage our community members, really, with our magazine. So in an ideal world, you find Toronto Life is part of your world in many different ways. So you have it on your phone. You get our e-newsletter, which you can subscribe to for free. You can come to some of our events, and you, of course, continue to subscribe to the magazine.
Okay, just as he's got the whole country as his target audience, and you have,
the whole country.
The whole country,
Yeah.
But you're out of Quebec.
We're out of Montreal, yeah.
You're out of Montreal, okay. Do you only want, I shouldn't say do you only want, but are you really focused on people who live in the 416?
So it is sort of wonderful that we have this specifically defined territory. And Toronto is an incredibly interesting city that is growing and complicated, and there's no shortage of stories to be found in Toronto. However, we love readers to come to us from everywhere, and that's one of the wonderful things about the internet age. I think there are some magazine journalists and journalists in general who find the internet threatening and nervous-making.
Don't you?
Financially, absolutely. We have we all have an ad revenue problem, in part because of this disruption of the internet. However, we have a lot of new readers that way, which is wonderful. We just recently, in this very issue, feature a memoir, a brave memoir by a writer named Emily Wright, who grew up in a very privileged household and found herself living on the street. So that story went viral, as they say, online. And I think we had about 1 million people see it. And it was our most popular story ever online. And people came to us through Facebook. And I suspect that story, because of its universal appeal, reached people well beyond the GTA. So that's a wonderful thing to be able to do. On the other hand, we do really have a defined readership of the City of Toronto.
Okay, you know this question's coming. Who's your dad?
My dad, Robert Fulford, who was a longtime editor of Saturday Night Magazine.
That's my point. Magazine editing flows in your DNA, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Indeed. So your dad once said, I think the quote is, there are about 10,000 readers for 10,000-word articles in this country. How mindful as an editor do you have to be not to have too many 10,000-word articles in your magazine, because there's just not enough people who want that?
So I think the burden is actually on the publication, not on the intelligence or the appetite of the reader to present a 10,000 word article. Should we ever do that? That is unputdownable. That's a really hard thing to do, but
I think the last time your magazine did it, you got sued. I think it was about Conrad Black, and he sued you.
Yeah, so 10,000 words is really long. On the other hand, a magazine's job is to be, as John said, both entertaining and ideally should make you smarter along the way. But it really is our responsibility as storytellers to grab the reader and not put them down.
Circulation figures?
So we have about 70,000 subscribers. That's mostly print, but we have an increasing number of people who have tablet editions. And then we sell about 10,000 per issue on the newsstand.
That sounds good. Is that good?
I'm thrilled that it is stable in this era when a lot of people are not buying printed magazines. Stable is like a huge victory. There are a million reasons for that. When you're in the checkout aisle at your supermarket, you're looking at your phone. You're not necessarily making an impulse purchase. On the other hand, when we put out a magazine, we think of the content as something we can share in a million different ways with readers.
Steve Maich.
Yes.
Here we go. You being the head of Rogers Publishing means that you publish every single magazine in the country except the 3 represented at this table. Is that
Not
right?
quite.
Not quite?
No.
But close.
We have 12 consumer brands, and then we've got, depending on how you count, a little north of 30 business-to-business trade publications.
Just throw some names out there, some of the ones you guys do.
Maclean's, Chatelaine, Hello Canada, Today's Parent, Sportsnet, Lulu, L'Actualité. That gives you a big chunk of our list.
There's Maclean's with a funky cover on it. Okay. And what would be the circulation of Maclean's nowadays?
The circulation of Maclean's is a little under 300,000.
And is that good?
It's good. It's like Sarah said. It's fairly stable. One of the interesting things, one of the interesting misperceptions I think that people have is that people are abandoning magazines in huge numbers, and I think people tend to conflate the experience of newspapers, physical newspapers, and paper magazines. We, in our industry, don't really have an audience problem. The audience has been remarkably stable if you look at readership figures over the past 10 years. What we've got is, as Sarah alluded to, a revenue problem. And it's actually the worst of both worlds, because as advertisers have pulled back from print, we've been left with fairly robust audiences that are difficult to monetize, but you've still got all those legacy costs, because print is a very expensive medium to try and satisfy. And the history of print magazines for decades has been basically that we produce the content and distribute the content and charge less than it actually costs to make the physical product. We make up the difference plus our margin on advertising. And so as advertising has gone away, those entrenched legacy costs in print have been a problem for us.
You guys took quite a gamble. You'll tell me how many years ago it was with Sportsnet magazine. How many years is it now?
2011 was when we launched.
2011. You think of sports magazines, you're thinking of Sports Illustrated.
Absolutely.
And you guys decided to go into that space
Yep.
with, I got to tell you, a beautiful looking magazine.
Thanks very
photos
much.
are fabulous, and despite the fact Stephen Brunt's in it, it's still a good magazine anyway.
I'll tell him you said that.
Why try that on, given that you must have known you'd be sustaining big financial losses for a while until it could find its footing?
Well, a couple of reasons. We felt very strongly that there was actually demand in the marketplace for a Canadian alternative to the Sports Illustrateds and the ESPNs, and that was actually vindicated for us within the first year. We got to the point where we had more Canadian subscribers to Sportsnet magazine than Sports Illustrated within the first 2 years, and we were outselling them on the newsstand within 2 months.
What are the numbers?
We've got in the neighborhood of around 65 or 70,000 paid subscribers to Sportsnet today, and we're selling a few thousand copies off the newsstand. But the newsstand is kind of a whole separate topic. The other reason that we wanted to launch it is that we felt that the future of ad sales across all media was really integrated. People wanted us to go out and to pitch them how to wrap their arms around the Canadian sports audience. And we had television, we had a radio network, we had a robust digital business, and Sportsnet magazine was an opportunity to come in, round out the offering, and create basically the first 5-platform sports brand in the country, and that's worked out quite well for us.
And when you think of the great magazines out there, what's at the top of your list?
Oh man, right now the two that really leap to mind are National Geographic, particularly their digital edition, and Esquire, again, their digital edition. Those to me are the two magazines that I look most to for inspiration.
I think I forgot to ask you that. What's at the top of your list for other magazines?
I find the New Yorker always has 2 or 3 pieces I have to read, and I read all the way to the end. And
they're long.
Often, but not boring. And Vanity Fair is satisfies a kind of delicious voyeurism that
you like
has
reading
mass
about
appeal.
Hungarian counts and all of their castles and that kind of thing.
If they're beautifully photographed, yes.
Yeah, which they are in that magazine, that's true. It says here that of the 10 most popular magazines in Canada, 6 are so-called women's magazines. Chatelaine, Canadian Living, Style at Home, Canadian House and Home, that kind of stuff. Let's go around on this. Haley, do you think women are better magazine readers than men?
Better. I don't know. I think that women certainly have an appetite for magazines and for long-form journalism. I don't know that I don't know the numbers, so I don't know if there are more female readers than men, but I certainly think that we found that women are a huge part of our audience, which is nice.
Sarah, I would have thought exactly the opposite, and yet more magazines seem to be tailored towards a female audience. Explain.
Well, I am loath to generalize entirely on behalf of women everywhere, but it may just be because people are so busy now that the aspirational offerings of a magazine that projects a lifestyle that is relaxed and organized and can be quite attractive. It's just because you can't bake those cookies that you like to look at the pictures of them. But really, I don't want to speak on behalf of all consumers of women's magazines.
And I'm not asking you to. Steve, any thoughts though?
Women our women's magazines are definitely really robust. A big part of the reason for that, though, I think, is that you've got more advertisers who are targeting women who still see print as an effective medium to reach them, and therefore it kind of becomes self-fulfilling because the ad dollars are there, the marketing support is there to continue to push this medium, particularly the women's audience.
Do you know Walrus numbers in terms of male readers versus female readers?
We're actually quite balanced. We're one of the few magazines that are quite balanced. I think it tips a little bit more to women, but it's in the 55%, 60% type range.
Do you want that?
You do want it balanced, but going back to what Sarah was saying, one of the things that you find is that sort of the 4 Fs, food, family, fashion, flirting, they photograph well, right? So this is the gamut from Cosmo to healthy living to, and it is aspirational. I actually have a friend who lives in Montreal. She's a good cook, but she's very busy. She's a lawyer. She's got 3 kids. She actually reads cookbooks at night before she goes to bed. She knows she'll never actually cook those recipes, but she loves looking at the pictures. She loves the idea of cooking those recipes, and I think there is a certain aspirational quality to it. Maybe 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, these are the people who would be reading the racy romance novels, and now they've graduated to a different kind of aspiration. Having a well-organized home, cooking healthy stuff for their kids all the time. Dressing impeccably. These are the sort of things, again, they photograph well, they translate well to a glossy mag, and they sell well.
Not a lot of flirting in Walrus magazine, though, is there?
Oh, we discourage that.
You discourage it?
Yeah. It could lead to all sorts of things.
Do we need more flirting in Walrus magazine?
It is definitely true that I think intellectually upscale magazines need to do a better job of addressing some of the things that people care about on a gut level. Including gender interaction and sex and all that sort of stuff, but in a sort of thinking person's way. And that's certainly one of the things I'll be looking at the Walrus.
Okay. We have on the table here, as we suggested, a lot of magazines the old-fashioned way, the way I like to read them. However, Steve, there is a Brave New World out there.
Absolutely.
And you guys are involved in it. What's next issue?
Next issue is a subscription service that gives you access to about 150 of the world's best magazines for one monthly subscription price.
That you read digitally.
That's right, and it's primarily a tablet product. It's also a good experience on smartphone, but these are digital magazines, and so you pay $10 a month, and you can get all the monthlies. If you upgrade to the premium package, which is $15 a month, you can get all the monthlies and all the weeklies. And like I said, there's about 150 on there. You can download as many as you like, and every week as new magazines are published, that database of content just grows and grows and grows.
No limit on how many pieces you can read or download or whatever.
Absolutely. It's all you can eat.
And it's all you can eat. Okay. And presumably you've made arrangements with, unlike other aggregators who just steal the stuff and put it there, you have a business arrangement with these companies to allow you to do this.
It's actually a partnership of the 5 biggest magazine publishers in North America. So it's a partnership between ourselves, Rogers Publishing, and Time Inc., Hearst, Meredith, and Condé Nast, and Colbert Crevis and Roberts, KKR, the private equity firm, just bought into Next Issue last week. It's based out of Silicon Valley, but Rogers is an equity partner, and we are the exclusive distributor in Canada.
And how's it going?
It's going great. We've seen tens of thousands of people sign on to the platform since we launched a year ago. Huge engagement. People are downloading 18 to 19 magazines per month per user off the platform. Engagement is really high. They're spending a lot of time with the magazines. We are really excited about it. We actually believe that this is the future of magazine newsstand in Canada. We couldn't be more enthusiastic.
Sarah, what do we think about bundling magazines in this fashion?
I think only time will tell.
Yes.
The optimistic view on it is that it will engender more people to enjoy more magazines. They will, if they have an appetite for good content on the tablet, they will have an appetite for good content everywhere.
Does anybody say, I don't like reading magazines on a tablet, I only like reading, let me rephrase the question. Besides me, is there anybody out there who says, I don't like reading magazines on a tablet, I really just want to feel it in my hands?
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
Those people still exist.
Absolutely.
I'm not the only dinosaur left.
No, I think
but I'm dying. This is a dying breed, clearly.
What my sense of our readership on all the different platforms is people like their brand, and people in magazines hate to use the word brand because it makes you think that you're a toothpaste company when in fact you're producing, beautiful prose and beautiful photographs. But we are. Toronto Life has almost 50 years old now, a distinct identity, and we have a certain horizon of subjects and a cast of characters that reappear in the magazine, and we deliver information about all those people and our subjects in a multitude of platforms. And I think the same person likes our magazine on many different platforms. We, of course, we're a monthly magazine, but we have lots of original journalism on our website, which you can only get by going to the website or by social media. And I can imagine a person, perhaps because I'm one myself, who loves reading a print publication, has magazines on the tablet, checks the Twitter feed for, of all my favorite brands to see what the columnists are saying now. Maybe they're out reporting something. A Maclean's columnist might be covering something that you can't get in the print publication, and opening up an e-newsletter that you've opted into that will give you more information. And then of course that same person might attend an event hosted by the publication that would be, from the page to the stage, a live interaction with the people that you find most engaging in your magazine. So I don't think it's an either-or proposition.
It's all of the above.
Ideally, I think that's quite common.
Okay. Haley, how about you on this issue of bundling magazines in this way?
I'm going to agree with Sarah. I think you have to reach readers all the ways and at all the points that they want to be reading. And so I think diversity is the key. And if, anything that gets more people reading long-form journalism is exciting. So if they read a few articles of one magazine and it takes them somewhere else through something like Next Issue, I think that's wonderful.
John?
I think it's a great medium, but you have to be careful of the Netflix model. One thing we've seen with Netflix in the TV space is that it puts enormous downward pressure on the prices that content producers can charge, because if they're selling it into a bundled package, if they're in a niche, a premium niche, it makes it very difficult for the aggregator to justify adding in that component. And so I'd love to make sure that, yes, that survives, but also you have single issue sales, you preserve the identity of the individual products rather than just lumping it into a large volume sale.
We're already in a world where if you're a writer and you want your stuff out there, in some cases you're writing for free, right? I mean, if you're Huffington Post, you're writing for free. If you're on the Globe and Mail website, you're writing for free. If you're a freelancer trying to submit something. Is that the way it's going?
I actually just had this conversation with a freelancer earlier today, and I described how 15 years ago, when I was a freelancer, you could aspire to a middle-class lifestyle just being a freelancer for Canadian print publications.
Those days are gone.
It's very difficult now. And often you will find yourself talking to recognized media brands, and you'll be talking to someone like me who will be trying to convince you to write for sums that are just a lot lower than they were 15 years ago. And so most of the people who are doing freelancing now are combining it with other things. So they're a freelancer, but they might also have a staff job, some sort of corporate PR, or they might be doing radio, they might be doing television, they might have some sort of creative industry job, or they might be an academic, or they might be someone who's retired, or they might be a student. So gone are the days when it was seen as just any other white-collar, middle-class profession. It's now a niche thing, and the people who are doing it, they're hustling. I mean, they are hustling, they're writing for different publications. You can't just settle back on 1 or 2 gigs. You really have to be out there.
But the inexorable, I shouldn't say inexorable, the apparent conclusion one could come to, Haley, is that if we do this program in 5 or 10 years, there will not be any of these print editions on the table. There will be one iPad on the table with 150 different offerings on it.
I don't agree with you, and I'm going to use an obvious example, which is records. 20 years ago,
LPs, you mean?
Yeah, LPs.
Okay.
Nobody wanted to buy them, and then as things became more and more digital, people have an affinity for something they can hold, and I don't think you're as much of a dinosaur as you think you are. And certainly you have to be aware of all the different ways people want to access what you're putting out there, but I think that there's something about print magazines that people like, and I think they're going to be around for a long time.
To answer your next question, yes, I still have my LPs in my record player.
Glad to hear
and
it.
use it. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. What about that, Steve? Do people still, 10 years from now, want to hold these things in their hands?
Well, I think the record analogy is actually a pretty good one. And what you've seen with records is it went through from a period where that was a mainstream method of distributing content to a niche product. Now, it's a specialty product. And people often say to me, I just like the tactile experience of holding magazines in my hands. And that's great, provided people are willing to pay the true cost of delivering content that way. If that's how people want to receive it, fantastic. But I think what's going to happen with digital technology, the things that digital has going for it are convenience and flexibility and speed and mobility and all those things. Now, this is a mobile product, but it's a slow, inflexible mobile product, and it's very expensive for us to deliver. So one of the things that we have been doing, and people notice, is that we have been raising the prices on our print product as we are pushing a lot of our marketing dollars towards what we do on digital.
Are you losing any circulation when you do that?
Absolutely, by design, because a lot of our circulation historically has been money-losing circulation, and that's not just Rogers Publishing, that's the magazine industry in general. So if there's a way for us to build a critical mass on digital, then we will gradually pull back on that money-losing circulation. And if you reduce yourself to the point where you're left with a sizable but still decent group of people who want to experience in print and are willing to pay the costs of receiving it that way, then you don't have a problem.
What about things like Flipboard, though, which, trust me, I don't use, but I guess people do, where you get it's an aggregator and they're giving it away for free.
Yes.
How do you guys make any money when they're giving it away for free?
Well, we don't make any money from Flipboard to the extent that
You hate them?
No, I don't hate them. It's another place, but I actually don't think that it's an experience that's going to replace the curated experience that we've got. The challenge that we've got within magazines, you referred before about the length of articles. Are there enough people interested in reading long articles? I don't think our problem is length at all. In fact, I think that and many times those long articles are the ones that are achieving a level of ambition that actually breaks through the noise. And if we've got a problem, it's that as an industry, we haven't done enough of that. We haven't done enough stories like the memoir that Sarah was referring to earlier that break through and attract a massive audience, whether it's in print or online. So we need to raise our game, because now we're in a world where the competition is global. The schedule is completely controlled by the audience. They don't have to wait for it to arrive in their mailbox. And the device that they want to receive receive it on increasingly is mobile, and I don't expect those trends to reverse.
Here's David Rose writing from the Neiman Lab in September of this year. The notion that as long as the editorial quality is good, it will sell is kind of a field of dreams logic. If you build it, they will come. I've worked in magazines for 18 years now, he writes, and it's never been the case that as long as you have a good editorial product, you can sell the magazine. In fact, the opposite is true. You can have a terrible editorial product, and you can sell the magazine as long as the business makeup is sound. Shelves at supermarkets are evidence of that. Yes? Business model over content?
Well, in a perfect world, you have both, right?
Yes.
I've been very blessed to work at a company with really smart business people who have figured out a way and continue to, by very careful management, to allow me the opportunity to publish content that resonates with our readers. I can't imagine having one without the other. Toronto Life is profitable, and we make less money than we did 7 years ago, but we continue to make money and we continue to produce content that resonates with readers. But I do think they go hand in hand.
John, how about you on that?
I think you have to create a community of smart people who are looking for intelligent journalism. And I think, there was a phrase that Sarah used. She said, from the page to the stage, which is so slick that I know Sarah had it in her back pocket coming into the show. And I know because I was actually at such an event. Toronto Life had Toronto's 50 most influential party at the Ritz. And everybody who walked in, she assured them that they were numbered 51 and just wait till next year. But no, that was exactly the sort of event where you're trying to build a community of readers, in some cases of advertisers. The Walrus is unique in this respect.
You guys are in competition on that. You do the Walrus Talks. And
Well,
she's
yeah,
got
I mean,
her
the
public
Walrus,
events.
it's true. We have the Walrus Talks events. There's going to be 17 for 2015. And what's amazing about these events is, last week the Walrus had an event where it was about philanthropy. And we had 8 speakers in Toronto, and there was almost 1,000 people showed up to that event. And when you get an event like that, and you get smart people in the room, most of those people are also people who are interested in reading The Walrus, you actually create a sense of community. And that's something you can't duplicate just by shoveling out stuff on supermarket shelves. I mean, it's a niche, but you're creating a bunch of people who are interested and engaged, and those are going to be the folks who are buying content on intellectually upscale Canadian magazines.
All right, then Haley, in our last 30 seconds, just tell me once again, because I need to hear it. I'm still going to be able to buy a magazine and hold it in my hands and feel the tactility of those beautiful glossy pages 10 years from now.
I definitely believe so. I don't think they're going anywhere.
I need a guarantee, Haley. Can you give me a guarantee?
I guarantee it.
You guarantee? That's all I need to hear. Good. Thanks, everybody, for coming in today, and keep doing what you're doing. We need it. Sarah Fulford, Editor-in-Chief, Toronto Life Magazine. Haley Cullingham, Editor-in-Chief, Maisonneuve. Steve Maich, founding editor of Sportsnet and publisher of every other magazine in the country. Jonathan Kay, Editor-in-Chief of The Walrus, as of 4 days ago.
That's right.
It's only going to get better.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.